Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Sunday Politics on Trust TV, your trusted platform for insightful analysis on politics, policy, and governance. I'm Hamza Idris. Tonight, we continue with our earlier analysis on the critical issues that are expected to shape the year 2025, which many say will form the basis of the assessment of impact or otherwise of the Tinubu administration approaching halfway into its first four-year stewardship. Some of the issues carried over from last year, such as the controversial tax reform bills, mounting debt profile, hyperinflation, non-appointment of ambassadors, among others, are beginning to take the center stage of public conversation, considering their implications on the economy, governance, and general well-being of the people. And to help us analyze the issues, once again, we have in the studio Dr. Sani Dawop, former governorship candidate of the Action Democratic Party, ADP, and also a retired head of planning, research and statistics in the office of the Auditor General of the Federation. Thank you once again for coming to our studio.
Thank you very much, Hamza, for inviting me, and Happy New Year, viewers. Thank you to be here.
Yeah, but before we commence the conversation, here are some major developments in the polity. The Northern Elders Forum has again raised concerns over the federal government's proposed tax reform bills, urging immediate suspension of the implementation and calling for extensive dialogue with stakeholders. The forum criticized the government for failing to engage critical stakeholders and experts before drafting the reforms. NEF expressed its position in a statement on Saturday signed by its chairman of management board, Alamin Dagash, highlighting the reform's potential adverse effects on northern Nigeria and Nigeria as a whole. And elsewhere, Saudi Arabia has released 3 Nigerians who were earlier arrested and prosecuted in the country. In a statement issued in Abuja on Sunday by the acting spokesperson of the ministry, Kimebe Ebeafa, the release followed high-level diplomatic engagement between the Nigerian government and Saudi authorities. The 3 Nigerians, namely Hadiza Abba, Fatima Mala, and Fatima Gamboy, were arrested for alleged possession of substance suspected to be cocaine while on pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. According to the statement, they were arrested and prosecuted on March 5, 2024 at Prince Mohammed bin Abdulaziz International Airport, Medina, Saudi Arabia, and released after spending 10 months in detention. And of course, viewers, in the course of the program, you will also have the opportunity to contribute to some of the myriad of issues that we will generate in the course of our conversation with Dr. Dawop. Once again, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm tempted to start with the second tidbit. You know, these Nigerians, the 3 of them, maybe we should say they are the luckiest of the year, going by the number of prosecutions by Saudi authorities just, in December. They said the highest in many years. What will you say about their release?
You just say that these people just escaped death by whiskers. Otherwise, it would have been a different story.
Yeah.
But I think that is the result of the high level of diplomatic, maneuvers, discussions, deliberations, negotiations that would have resulted into that. Then secondly, I wouldn't know the extent to the evidences established also that, Saudi Arabia authorities could be that magnanimous to release them. Maybe the evidences are not such convincing,
they
to
carry
warrant exactly.
cocaine.
Exactly. Otherwise, I don't know how Saudi Arabia can.
They don't really,
they
even
don't
for
really,
their citizens.
even
Once
for
you are
their
convicted,
citizens. Yes.
that's the end.
Exactly.
I was shocked, of course, as I said, when I read the figures in December. It was mind-boggling. And even Amnesty International is still drawing attention of Saudi Arabia that, capital punishment is not for this century. But I think they don't really believe in that, Saudi Arabia, China, and a number of
there are
countries.
a number of countries that, I think even Japan, capital punishment for corruption. They are still there. So
you just have to go.
You just have to go.
Will you subscribe something like that in Nigeria?
China is still doing it. So it's not about...
And they are growing.
Yeah.
I don't know, will you subscribe to that in Nigeria, going by the level of decadence, is it corruption, is it even the arms? I pity NDLEA sometimes. Even today, before we come to the studio, when I saw the statement from the spokesperson,
now,
almost every other day, they arrest people with cocaine, many other psychotropic substances. But then you see the punishment, maybe 1 year, 6 months, and then you see the same people going back to the old trade.
Yeah, so it's not really a deterrence. That's the sentencing, the jail term. It's not really a deterrence. Maybe what could be more deterrence is, like you're saying, maybe the capital punishment option.
Not really, but
before you start that,
some people are suggesting.
Before you even start that, you must sensitize, you must create awareness, and you must give a long time. And you cannot do it retrospectively. You have to say, look, from so-so period, we would be starting, maybe something like that, even if you want to start. You understand? So it's not something that you will say anybody currently caught, you just pass the law and then people are caught up. No, you really have to give some leeway, some time, and say, look, from the next 2 years or from the next 3 years, if we catch anybody involved in so, because honestly, some of the offenses, they cause, corruption, the magnitude of corruption can ruin an entire country, an entire community. So just the offense of one person, imagine one person stealing 90 billion naira or 100 billion. The lives of millions of people depended on that money. And he would have sent, he would have sent many people to their early graves just by that act of corruption. And so those kind of monumental offenses, those are the kind ones. But yes, some of the lighter offenses, yes, you can say, even if it's a corruption cases, if you look at also the quantum, the financial implication, you can oversee, you can forgo those for jail terms. But there are those that impact millions and multiples of people that you can say, hey, look what you have done.
You just have to go. I was in China in August, and honestly, I asked some officials there why they are killing people for some of these offenses, like corruption, drugs, and others. And one of them told me that they didn't start it overnight, because they feel that societal factors can trigger someone. Nobody is born a criminal. This is what he told me. He said nobody was born a criminal. It is the society that put some people in chain and then push them to criminality. What they did in China was to actually provide opportunities.
Good.
So there are legal ways that you can become a billionaire. You can eat 3 times. They fought hunger hands down. They provided opportunities and all that. But if you deviate from that, they said that there is no reason for them not to kill you. So maybe Nigeria should start from there. Provide opportunities, and then use the stick for those who deviate.
And that's why I told you, I said, this is something that will take some time. And you must create that atmosphere. You must do that awareness, and the government must also be responsible, because some acts of bad governance or misgovernance, can result into a lot of people. You can imagine if somebody steals a cup of gari, and the moment he's shouted, thief, thief, and he can be lynched to death in some parts of the country. So you can imagine that. And yet there are people who are stealing billions and billions of money, and we are celebrating them.
They'll go for a plea bargain or something like that. And I think both religions, if somebody steal bread because of hunger, because society has felt him, you can't punish him.
In fact,
maybe bread or a cup. We are not encouraging it, of course.
Exactly.
But then it is stated clearly that somebody who steals food because he's hungry, you just have to ask somebody for not providing the opportunity for him to get his daily bread. Okay, that is it about that, Dr. Dawop. Now, the second tidbit, honestly, I'm subsuming it to be part and parcel of the major topic of discussion, analyzing the critical issues that could shape 2025. And one of them, which is actually hitting the polity, is the tax reform bills. And of course, you retired as head of planning, research and statistics in the office of the Auditor General of the Federation. Meaning you must have been privy to some of these technicalities.
And you also
former inspector of taxes, Federal Inland Revenue Services. So it's round hole. Is it round peg in round hole? Yeah, having worked in the office of the Accountant General and the Federal Inland Revenue Services. This tax today, yesterday, Northern Elders Forum, they sound warning weeks back But then, because they know that work is resuming, all those who have gone for holidays and all that, they are back. The National Assembly, very soon they will be back.
Yeah.
But they are still warning the federal government and the legislators to completely withdraw the tax reform bills for wider consultations. Are you with the Northern Elders Forum?
It's not about being with the Northern Elders Forum, but it's about the facts of the matter. Now, generally, I must tell you, tax is not the means to bring about development in an economy. You don't use taxation as a means to develop an economy. In fact, the pros and cons, the for and against the use of tax as a means of development, in fact, there are more against using tax as a means of development. So if you look at that aspect, you will say that honestly, but there are aspects of the reform bills that are okay, you understand? And then there are aspects that they need to tarry or they need to completely throw it away, but you can't throw the baby with the bathwater. That's what I would say about the tax reform bill. It's just like the Petroleum Industry Act. It took almost 3 regimes to finally get it passed.
Over 20 years.
Exactly. So I don't think they should be in a rush to pass the tax bill. My advice is that they should continue to engage. No matter how long it takes, let us carry everybody along. Let us make sure that the issues are explained. You understand? Where people have reservations, let the people enacting that bill give it a listening ear, so that at the end of the day, you know, it will be a win-win situation for both the people, for the government, and the country itself. So that you don't use tax to overkill the economy. Because that's why I say if care is not taken, and generally, tax is not a strategy to develop an economy.
What is the strategy to develop economy if not tax?
In fact, you have to even give tax holidays. Why do you give tax holidays to companies that are starting new, Pioneer Tax and the rest? It's because you want to encourage people. And there are aspects of voluntary assessment, you know, where people on their own come and say, this is what I earn, and this is my own assessment by myself, so you should tax me on this. There are several other measures, you understand, that can carry the people along and can elicit or engender that commitment and that passion and that patriotism in the citizens.
One of the arguments
Yes.
being advanced by the Tinubu government is that you have multiplicity of taxes, and they now want to bring them together so that instead of you paying maybe education tax, you pay company income tax, you pay personal income tax, you pay ITF tax, and all of that. You worked at Federal Inland Revenue Service. During your days, was the agency generating as much as it's been generating in the last maybe 10, 9 or 5 years?
Okay, let me tell you one aspect of the bill. One aspect of the bill is that changing the name from Federal Inland Revenue Service to National Revenue Service. What it means is that there are 4 aspects of the bill. So this aspect of the bill about changing the name is to say that, look, there are revenue generating work that some government agencies are involved in. And rather than focusing on their core mandate, they now focus on generating revenue. And then they lose focus. So those kind of revenue collection responsibilities, now the National Revenue Service will now take over those responsibilities.
Those agencies will now go back to their primary mandate. Because they said even VI or road safety.
Beautiful, like fines, road fines, and all this.
They all generate revenue. They even have target.
And sometimes they even boast that, look, this is our target. When you are going out on an assignment, they say you must go and realize also. They are losing focus. So those areas, that's why I told you, there are good sides of the bill and there are bad sides.
So for instance, if they now strip Federal Road Safety Commission, with due respect to them, because they may not be happy, but because as you said, they concentrate more on, you know, generating revenue than even protecting civilians. I mean,
than even providing safety on the roads. So those are the kind of aspects. You could say, okay, the fines, the collection of the fines and fees for road offenses will now be the responsibility of the National Revenue Service as a federal government agency. So you people now focus on providing safety and making sure that our roads.
So if you have your way,
you can now go to the Nigeria Port Authority.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Okay, Port Authority. Go ahead.
Very good. The Port Authority are actually supposed to manage the ports and make them very efficient. So the tax collection aspect of, the duties, the charges, the port charges and the rest.
The demurrage and all
exactly. That. So those aspects of work are what the Revenue Service will now do on behalf of the federal government, so that the Port Authority will now focus on making sure that the harbor is safe, that even the maritime system is very effective.
Like the Nigeria Maritime and Safety Agency.
Yes. So those are the kind of work.
So if you have your way,
yes,
you will tell the Tinubu administration to say, implement these policies in piecemeal. Take the ones that have no controversy.
Beautiful.
Start with them.
Low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit.
Exactly.
While you fine-tune where you have contentions.
Exactly. Rather than insisting that the bill must go together.
We brought somebody here, and he said they are all the 4 bills.
Yes.
They are interconnected. You can't, execute them separately. That couldn't be correct, right?
No, you can review the bill. After all, the bills were, in fact, the bills were promulgated by people, isn't it?
Yes.
So you can go back and review the bills also.
So they are not cast in stone.
So that exactly. So that those interconnectivity that will not
allow them
detriment or will be very detrimental to the other aspects of the bill. You can execute it. And I said, let us take time. Let us not be in a hurry. And in fact, I heard somebody was saying that even the members of the National Assembly have been threatened that if they don't pass the tax bill, that they may not even get tickets on their party if they are members of APC.
And thank God you are actually the national spokesperson of the ADP. Now, talking about the political aspect of this, as you can see, governors, especially those from the north, they are averse to getting the bill there. Don't you think they will serve as strong protection for the legislators from their states, because they are more powerful than the president when you go to their states?
Well,
could that be correct?
Like I said, we heard of this, so it's still from the grapevine. I mean, the party itself has not officially come out to admit that yes, if you don't, but in politics, it's not everything that you come out and say publicly. So definitely, because of the opposition on the tax bill by most of the northern governors.
And even northern traditional rulers. And you can see even northern groups. And this issue, which we hope to discuss some other time, is actually propping up more regional groups. Like in the north now, apart from Arewa Consultative Forum, Northern Elders Forum, you have like 4 more, and they are being spearheaded by powerful forces, all generating interest and exerting pressure on the system. What message do you have for President Tinubu in respect to this, even for his future political ambition, because he's just, inching closer to the half of his first term?
He has already inched into the half of his tenure. It's not as if he's inching closer. He's already into the half of his own tenure.
In the next 4 months,
you understand?
2 years,
Exactly. So my advice for him is that he should tread cautiously, and he should implement this bill in piecemeal. And then thirdly, he must make sure that he carries Nigerians along, not just northerners. But it's just that the loudness of the opposition is coming from the north. It's not as if even some parts of the east or even some parts of the southwest, as if they are completely in support. No. But where the opposition is coming loudest is actually from the north.
You are a tax expert. Now, during the first media chat he held with journalists in Lagos, he said no going back. How will you describe that statement? He appears like an emperor, or maybe he has his way? Because I'm beginning to add 1 and 1, and it's giving me 2 in a way, because stories today about the president and his men using the back door to actually convince those against the bill. And in Nigeria, when you talk about back door is about maybe concessions. They will say, okay, I will give you this, I will give you that. And the poor, they don't really trust their leaders. Don't you think the president will ultimately have his way?
The president may have his way, he may not have his way. And like I told you, I said, he needs to negotiate. He needs to allow time to engage with people so that these things are explained to people and people will understand. And if people understand and they buy in, they have weighed the pros and cons, they know the effects, you understand, then sometimes you can say, not that he's boasting. For me, I don't think it's just as a president, he's just been trying to be confident that, look, this bill is for the good of Nigeria. That's
maybe he has his facts.
Exactly.
We cannot rule that out.
So that's what I'm saying. So he may be saying that, look, but I'm saying, if you don't explain all these things very well for people to understand and agree and go along with you, then there's no need to push it. Otherwise, it will backfire.
No
matter how good the policy is.
These bills, you know, so many things around them. Now, ending funding for TET fund by 2030. You know, ASU, colleges of education, polytechnics, they are all crying. They said TET fund was actually the baby of the ASU. Inadequacies of budget allocations to tertiary institutions. They are going to back to square one. In the event it succeeds, you know, this bill succeed in taking off support and funding through TET fund. What is your take on this? Should the president allow TET fund to remain?
You see, in the first place, it was because of the bad governance over time that now made ASU to conceptualize the issue, because they approached President Abacha then and told him that, look, there are other ways that education can be funded. And he said,
instead of budgetary allocation.
Exactly, instead of budgetary allocation. Why? Because the subsequent governments failed in terms of funding education. Now we are talking about the United Nations standards that education, health, you know, should have a minimum of the budgetary allocations. Where are we in Nigeria? Very far. Some states are even budgeting 2% of their budget for health or education.
Instead of 25 and all that.
Let's even start with 10%. In my last presentation, I studied, I said, let's start with 10% for health, education, and other critical aspects. You understand? Agriculture and the rest. Let's start with just 10%. And then let's do it across board. When you do it, and then when the management of public resources is transparent and there's accountability, honestly, there will be even no need for even TET fund in the first place. Because prior to the agitation to have TET fund, the tertiary institutions were well funded, both by the federal government and, you know, the proliferation of state universities and state tertiary institutions came up, and now private universities and private tertiary institutions are also coming into the education equation. So you have to actually look at all this and the implications. So you need to actually do a review. What will be the implication of stopping the funding of TET fund from the 2% education tax fund? You have to actually do a study. And if they have done a study, let them tell Nigerians
the outcome.
The outcome, exactly.
And some Nigerians are raising red flag because even in US, you know, Biden, about 2 months ago, he had to cancel loans given to some students because many of them got depressed.
Exactly.
They are when you even have some guarantee of getting jobs. But now they are saying part of the monies that will be saved from the TET fund allocation will now go to NEL fund. That means student loan, right? Now, will Nigerian students, do you think that they will be able to repay these loans? Because as we speak now, hundreds of thousands of them that have graduated are roaming the streets without job. Now you are giving them loans.
And then you are not even guaranteeing them the issue of getting employment.
So it's like setting the card before the...
Even Obama finished paying his own education loan when he was president. So there are implications. There are people who take the education loan in the US and in other developed climes. And because of the taxation, the compounding of the taxation, if you are not able to pay, it's compounded. That you take a loan of $60,000 and then you end up paying $280,000, $300,000, and all things like that. So the only concessions they have is that, you can delay the payment or the repayment of the loan. But in Nigeria, we have a lot of challenges.
The shock absorbers are
the issues of identity, the issues of management, the issues of good governance, the issues of transparency and
job creation,
the issue of employment, job creation, and then some people can even keep 2 or 3 jobs at the same time, and nobody is able to check them. So have we put in all these systems in place for us to implement this? Even the recovery, let the first beneficiaries graduate. You cannot even assess the impact of the students' loans scheme until after 10, 15 years. And I think with the implementation, after 10, 15 years, let us do a review of that program to see the impact.
All right, that is it, because we have quite a number of issues. Now, hyperinflation, as he pledged to reduce it to 15% this year from over 34%. Should we take that to the bank?
No, nobody should take that to the bank because the indices are not really there. Now, you see, inflation is one of the issues that will shape 2025 and the years beyond. And in fact, even the future of the Tinubu administration and governance. If we cannot bring down inflation to less than 10%, then we have not started. So we need to have a strategy how this can be reduced over time. And we have not seen that blueprint yet.
But he has said it. Maybe he has the blueprint.
No, you have to disclose it and you have to share it with Nigerians, and Nigerians have to know how you want to achieve this. It's not just mere statement that you come. Look, Nigerians have gone beyond that.
Okay, what are the drivers of inflation for our numerous viewers? Because when you talk to somebody, you say, inflation, what do you mean? Now, what triggers inflation? And what are the brakes? I mean, what will you put in place to now halt the movement of inflation?
Now, one of those things you can do is reducing or completely stopping importations, unnecessary importations to a very large extent. Number 2, productivity. We must have a productive-driven economy, not a consumptive-driven economy. That is very, very essential. The issue of subsidy is also very critical to controlling the cost of production. And government, where it becomes very necessary, they must give subsidy. And at the moment in Nigeria, I doubt if there's any subsidy in agriculture. I doubt.
But they have been claiming.
No, forget about that, please. I'm telling you.
Because you're also into farming.
Exactly.
So there is nothing like.
Exactly. Now, because when you are looking at real subsidy, it must have impact on reducing the cost of food. That is where you really have this impact. The issue of employment will also go to a large extent to reduce inflation generally in the economy. The issue of interest rates, because the more you borrow at a higher rate, the more the cost of production, because when the cost of finance is very high, you don't have a choice in fixing your prices. So these are the multiple issues that you have to address in order to bring down.
Don't you think then the president has scored a big goal? Because as we speak now, the Port Harcourt refinery, Dangote refinery, they have drastically reduced the volume of importation, which guzzles billions of our foreign exchange. Maybe the president is backing on this to say that, and worry, as they said. Of course, there is this debate between them and Obasanjo. We don't want to get into that. But now that they are cutting importation of petrol, diesel, aviation, don't you think the president has something in his pocket? That is why he made this declaration. And maybe before the end of the year, you'll be able to now, stop importation completely, especially of petroleum.
Even with Dangote refinery, we can stop importation. Now with the coming on board of Port Harcourt refinery and Warri refinery, that should be on board. But ask yourself, are the catalytic cracking units of these two refineries in Port Harcourt and Warri, are they actually working?
What is catalytic?
Because if they're actually, this is where the real crude, you understand, it's extracted,
to now bring out various components.
Exactly,
What they say, there are over 40 things
Thank you
that
very
you
much.
can extract.
Exactly. So if this is not really working, it's very difficult for you, because what we understand is that they are kind of I don't know what they are really doing in those refineries.
There is this video.
Really refining in the real sense is
Doctor, there is this video of late MKO Abiola.
Yes.
When they ask him whether he will remove subsidy, he said, what subsidy? That he believed that what you get from the crude is enough to even give the petrol almost free for Nigerians. I was thinking it was AI generated until we got a report, which we published in the Daily Trust recently, that in Libya, it's almost free. Of course, they pay, but it's very, very insignificant. In some places, petrol is even cheaper than bottled water in Libya.
Yeah.
And when we asked, somebody said it is simply because they are actually making good use of all the products that you have in the crude oil.
And that's why if you do not have the end products of the refineries, you're not really maximizing the refinery. So the petrochemical aspects must come on board.
So Obasanjo, after all, may not be entirely wrong.
No, honestly,
you know, the way he
maybe
speaks.
it's the way he puts it, and you know, maybe Obasanjo and Tinubu have some little issues here and there, but to a very large extent.
And people believe he isn't a frivolous person.
Yeah,
he always has his facts before he fires any salvo.
He does his homework very well. He does his homework. He has his own shortcomings, of course, but he does his homework very well before he comes out to say something. So I think what they should do is let them listen to the message, not the messenger. That's my advice to the government. They shouldn't look at Obasanjo.
Some Nigerians will feel depressed when you say, because many are happy. I am personally happy that maybe by the time the inflation comes down to the 15% in the first instance, you know, what I take home as my salary will start taking care of my basic needs. So it's not all over for Nigerians. They have to continue to ask questions.
That's why I'm saying they must come up with a blueprint how they are going to reduce this inflation. And I said it. It's not just enough for you just to come and say that you are going to reduce inflation. Reduce inflation how? Tell us, what are the parameters? What are your strategies? And let's see how you are going to achieve it. And convince Nigerians. And when they see it and when they are convinced and you need the support of Nigerians, they will give you the support. But we are past the stage where, you know, you just come and do some abracadabra and think that people will just go along with you. We have really passed that stage.
And closely related to this, Doctor, is the floating of the Naira. It is now, you know, 1,500, but some are even predicting that as work resumes tomorrow, it will now go up. What do you think the federal government must do to give value to the Naira? Now, for you to take 1,700 to get $1, you know.
You still have to go back to the issue of productivity, the issue of importation. Another thing is that let us begin to look at redenominating the Naira.
But Ghana did not succeed when they redenominated their...
Is it only Ghana? There are several other countries
that succeeded. Maybe they didn't get there all right.
Exactly. So, and again, we're not going to take it whole hog. You understand? We do this gradually. I think Ghana redenominated about twice or more than that. So these are the issues you have to look at. You really have to do your homework very well so that you can come out with a very successful program with a good strategy. So that's very, very key. Reducing the foreign exchange value. I think what the government did is just mere pronouncements.
And then
it's not the real value of the Naira. Because we just woke up overnight and then suddenly that was what the CBN announced. Exactly.
And then at a certain time they say it was the best performing currency. I remember, was it in May or thereabout?
I think when
for 1 week and then it went back to...
Around July or so, even at the parallel market, I think it was exchanging for about 700 and something Naira as at last year. And suddenly we shot up to 1,500 or so. I mean, that is not market force. So you can see there are some manipulations there. And these are the problems we have in managing the economy. And the CBN will have to convince a lot of people, including doubting Thomases like me, that they really mean well and they actually have the strategy to manage the economy, not just the monetary functions, but also the fiscal policies.
Why do you think Nigerians don't really trust some of the projections of government? Before the end of the year, you know, they predicted that the Naira, I mean, 800 will now buy dollar for you. But here we are, almost double that amount. Is it that those making the pronouncements are actually doing a guesswork, or they are not in tune with reality?
That's why I told you the exchange rate of the Nigerian Naira presently is not determined by market forces. It is just some people that sit down and decide this is what we should sell the dollar.
And
sell the Naira
it's very dangerous
against the dollar. Exactly. That's why it's very dangerous. Now, there are so many things we need to do. First, we have to open up the multiple sources of foreign exchange availability. Secondly, we must reduce expenditure on foreign goods so that we'll be able to manage the volatility of the exchange rate. Because if you don't do that, when you are looking at just the value of the Naira, you understand? The volatility, that's the movements up and down, and you are not managing those critical aspects, it will be very, very difficult for you to have a realistic and a reliable exchange rate. When you look at so many other countries that are doing very well in managing their exchange rates, they have remained stable for more than 20,
Saudi Arabia
30 years.
is an example.
Exactly. So many countries are there. So what are they doing right?
And what are they doing?
What are they?
Even even the inflation. They said the year will close with around 21%, but it ended up with 34.
And that's why I'm telling you. I said, most of the time, the policy makers are not really sincere about what they say. They just come out and make pronouncements and make statements, thinking that they will just please the people. But Nigerians have moved away from that.
They are no longer going.
They are no longer going.
Finally,
I was sitting in a program, and we had some young people and some quite matured and grown-ups and about to retire. And one of the young people was asked to make a presentation. And the summary of what the young person said was that we Gen Zs, as we call them, the young generation, we do what you do, not what you say. So if you say this and you do something different, we look at that body language and that's what we do. So we need to gauge what are the feelings of our young people in this country.
They are no longer
carried along. And it's very critical that our young people are carried along in our policies.
Finally on this, before we move to another topic, is this yuan Naira exchange. You know, last week, at the end of the new year, they said they are going to reactivate this currency swap with China. I know it's been there. I personally interviewed the Chinese ambassador, and what he said is that there are some people deeply entrenched that they don't want that idea to work. And
that is what I told you. I said the exchange rate in Nigeria is manipulated. It's not determined by market forces. I said it. And that's exactly, you just confirmed exactly what I said.
So Tinubu should push for that currency swap. I mean, with yuan.
Buhari started it. What stopped us achieving that? Now you've got the confirmation. Some people are just not interested. And that is exactly what is happening to the Nigerian economy. Some people just feel that when the economy improves, the leakages, the opportunities that they have been getting might not be there along completely. So rather, it shouldn't even work in the first place.
All right, thank you. Viewers, we've been here in the studio with Dr. Sani Dawop, former governorship candidate of Action Democratic Party in Plateau State, retired head of planning, research and statistics in the office of the Auditor General of the Federation and former Inspector of Taxes, Federal Inland Revenue Services, trying to see or forecast what the future holds for us, especially in Nigeria. And it is now time for you to also contribute to some of the issues we raise, but just go straight to your point, give solutions, advise government, and you can also ask questions. Don't use foul language as we await your calls. Yeah, of course we already have one waiting. Yes. Hello, welcome to the program.
Good evening, Hamza, Idris, and Sani Dawop.
Yes.
Thank you very
this
much.
must be Shamaki from Nasarawa.
In Shamaki, yes, you are right, Shamaki.
Okay, good evening. Yes, as I said, we have Dr. Sani Dawop in the studio. He's ready to answer your question or to agree or disagree with what you will say. Go ahead. Hello?
The reception is not.
Yes. Shamaki?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, no, go ahead. Of course, we are analyzing the critical issues that could shape 2025, including tax, hyperinflation, and many others, which we are going to bring up in a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. See, in every government, there must be good governance. Governance automatically, it means there is no government. Actually, there are so many issues that the government need to look at it in this 2025.
Okay.
Most especially the issue of price of fuel. Because if the price will go down drastically, believe in me, things on its own, it will change. The shape will change. I even love what the governor of Borno State wanted doing. He automatically reduced the price of fuel in his state.
For farmers, of course, not for everyone.
Yeah, yes. If the governor of Borno will do that, I think it's a step for other governors to kick into. By the time they do that, believe in me, things in the various state will go down.
All right.
So things must be changed so that the common man can be able to have it on his table.
Thank you very much, Shamaki. Yes.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You had him, and that was the story of the weekend, Governor Zulum, he subsidized petrol to 600 naira, but for farmers who are going into irrigation. Can we say now another round of subsidy at the state level?
And you remember I told you, there's no way you can run an economy without subsidy. I said it earlier.
It must be there.
There must be
subsidy. So he's
subsidy.
subsidizing his farmers.
Exactly. So you must also look at which area do I subsidize and how does the subsidy get directly to the beneficiaries? Not that along the line you have middlemen hijacking the subsidy again. So that is very critical.
So you are in tune with what Zulum did.
you have to subsidize.
Maybe other governors should also find a way of.
Look, in the 2008 during the economic meltdown, Barack Obama had to introduce the economic stimulus and provided loans through subsidies to corporations and organizations,
so that they can
and
survive.
give them conditions that yes, if you're able to maintain your workforce, we will give you this, but you have to cut on executive costs and other costs. And they agreed, and the economy turned around within a short time.
It was a win-win.
Exactly. So
okay, we have another caller on the line. Hello, who is on the line?
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good
My
evening.
name is Malachi Desmond.
Okay, Malachi. From where?
Yeah, I'm from Abia State. I'm just watching you people live now, and what you people are discussing, I love it.
Thank you. Okay, can you reduce the volume of your TV set so that we can hear you clearly?
Okay.
Okay, go
I'll
ahead.
reduce it.
Yes, we are with you now.
Please, what I want to say is based on the general note, based on the federal level. The rating is just that I would love the government to reduce the cost of fuel because it's like it is bringing a lot of negative impact in the lives of the citizens.
All right, Malak. Thank you very much. He also aligned
with what he said.
What Shamaki said.
What Shamaki said.
Yes, but quickly before we get another call, because we have a number of issues. The president has traveled quite a number.
Yes.
In the last 18 months, and Peter Obi came with figures that the president has traveled more than enough. You should stay at home, go to some states and see what is happening. I want to link this with the question of posting of ambassadors. He has been traveling. He is the ambassador in chief, but he doesn't have emissaries there. But before you answer this, I want to take this call. Yes. Hello. Who is on the line? Okay, we lost the call. Okay, quickly,
now,
because they will keep call it now.
It's very surprising and it's very unusual that for almost a year, Nigeria doesn't have ambassadors.
Over 13 months now.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So how can you have a foreign policy where you don't have the same people that you expect to implement those foreign policies? It's because they have no foreign policy. And that is why it is happening. Very, very unusual.
Don't you think maybe the president is saving money?
Saving money
for
how?
not posting the ambassadors.
There was a time we developed a policy on economic diplomacy. And you cannot drive that. And the whole essence is to encourage foreign direct investments. And to a large extent, I remember during that period, the quantum of foreign direct investments increased. I cannot give you the precise figures now, but that is a fact.
It worked.
It worked very well.
All right, doctor, let me pick another caller who should ultimately be the last caller for the program. Hello, welcome to the program. Yes, quickly, welcome to the program. Let's have your name.
Good evening. I am Mr. Emmanuel Edoko calling from Cross River State.
Okay, welcome. And let's have your take in less than 1 minute, please.
Okay. Well, we are... Okay. I am advising the government to cut down the price of fuel so that at least the masses can benefit from it. And I believe that is a dividend of democracy for the entire masses.
Okay, okay. So you want the price of petrol to be cut down. Thank you very much for calling. So all of them on.
You can imagine three people
calling
and saying
yes, and you also supported them. Okay, so the president should, as a matter of facing reality, appoint ambassadors very soon.
Absolutely. He has no choice than to do the rightful thing and the needful. We need to have these ambassadors because they are the spokespersons of the Nigerian government, of the country, outside Nigeria, wherever they are foreign.
But there are feelers that actually politicians politicians are trying to actually take over everything because before you will have career ambassador and then non-career ambassador. But it's like politicians, they want to now encroach into the little quota left for those who know the foreign mission jobs.
No, the president should stand his feet. He should stand his feet.
Allow expertise to...
And allow the technocrats to have the percentage of representation that we need and still give the politicians a few of those opportunities. So that is very important.
Okay, finally, because we have less than 1 minute to round up the program, I want your take on the quantum of borrowing by Nigeria. And is it worth it? Should we continue borrowing? Can we justify what we have borrowed?
What do we borrow for? That's the most critical issue.
Palette.
If you just borrow for consumption and you're not borrowing for investment to produce, it's not worth it. You can imagine if I have to borrow money from the bank and I have to just buy furniture in my house and change my wardrobe and change my car without investing that money into something that is productive, that I'm manufacturing something, is it worth for me really borrowing? Can I even pay back? So those are the issues in terms of the debt management crisis that we have in Nigeria generally. This happens both at the subnational governments and at the national government.
So we have to change our priorities.
We have to change our priorities and make sure that we borrow for investments.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Sani Dawop, former governorship candidate of the Action Democratic Party in Plateau State, retired head of planning, research and statistics in the office of the Auditor General of the Federation, and former inspector of taxes, Federal Inland Revenue Services, for coming to the program.
Thank you very much.
We hope to have you some other time. Of course, we still have outstanding issues but much later into the hour, we'll bring you to the studio.
Thank you very much,
Hamza. Talk about it. Thank you for coming.
Good evening.
Yes, and viewers, that's a wrap on today's package. We thank all those who succeeded in getting in and contributing to this, and we apologize to those who were unable to have their way into the program. We hope to give you the opportunity within the week. And thank you for being with us. Bye-bye for now. I am Hamza Idris.